Hello everyone! So yeah, story time. Okay, the reason I thought I'd make this video is I came to this weird realisation recently, which just sort of hit me like a brick to the face, where I just sort of realised I don't really play video games that much anymore. I try and convince myself that no, I'm still with the times, I'm still up with the culture and all that shit. You know, the last video game I played was Alien Isolation. That was fairly recent, wasn't it? And then I remember Alien Isolation came out in 2014. It's nearly half a decade since I bothered to complete a video game. That's fucking insane, right? Back when I was a teenager, I used to be like really into trying to keep up with all of the new releases and shit, but now my interest has dwindled to basically nothing. Apparently there's this thing called Fortnite that everyone's talking about, like there's people with guns on the cover, and I guess it's another one of those games where like you got the gun, right, and you point it at a person, and then you like shoot the gun at the person, and then when you finish shooting the gun at the person falls over dead. I am really starting to sound like someone's mum here, aren't I? But it's weird, before I would have been like, oh, that sounds cool, let's check that out. You know, everyone else is doing it, so let's look at what this is. But now it's like nothing. I just don't have the enthusiasm or the energy or to go, oh yeah, I'm going to dedicate some of my free time to this. I just feel nothing inside. Why do I feel so hollow? So I thought I'd make this video just sort of a random off-the-cuff thing where I just sort of ramble and go through my history as a gamer from birth until sort of death, maybe death. Maybe I'll get back into it one of these days, who knows. I suppose maybe it's because I don't have as much free time these days as I used to. Essentially, I do this YouTube channel instead of playing video games. I know I could be doing this YouTube channel as well as playing video games, because apparently video games are very popular on the internet. But I don't like doing what's popular, as is plainly evidenced. So yeah, let's start at the start. 1999. So Pokemon cards were incredibly popular at this time, and given I was a dorky loner sort of kid, I wanted to know what was popular, so I would have something to talk about with the other kids. So I massively got into Pokemon and started hearing people talking about, oh, there's a video game as well. What's a video game? So basically I just sort of begged my parents for ages to get me a Game Boy and a Pokemon game, so you know I would have anything to talk with other people about. So yeah, that was essentially why I got into Pokemon. And yeah, Pokemon Red, Blue and Yellow, they were bloody great. They were bloody great games. I mean, I know they're essentially they're very primitive, and there's lots of faults and lots of glitches in them, and it is weird thinking back that basically the reason that I got into Pokemon in the first place was essentially as a socializing device. I suppose one of the main things I liked about the original Pokemon games was the exploration aspect of it. I wasn't so concerned with, you know, the grinding, the leveling up. Like, I did that, obviously. When you'd be walking around in caves, you'd run into like a Zubat or something every like 3 or 4 paces, and that was really annoying. But what I really loved was just sort of the exploring places, like, but not just sort of aimlessly wandering around and exploring places just for the sake of it. You know, you're exploring places to like find a way out, some sort of objective. So basically I just sort of begged my parents for money for Game Boy games occasionally, and then eventually they got me PlayStation 1. Yeah, remember those things. I was obsessed for ages with trying to complete Rayman 2, which was such a difficult game. Like, I remember staying up really late and ending up getting a headache because I was stuck so hard on the Cave of Bad Dreams, and I wouldn't be able to save the level until I completed it. And there were like so many different stages to it, but I was just like, I wanted to complete it. This is so difficult, and it's like a challenge that I've got to get to the end of. Spyro 2, that was another one which I was obsessed with for ages. Like, I got to the end of it, and like, it was around then that I sort of got into the obsessive, you know, going around trying to collect all of the collectibles thing. Like, I'd never really got into that before because with Pokemon they'd made it so difficult to get all of the 150. Like, they'd hide certain Pokemon in different versions and shit like that. And there was Pokemon that you couldn't actually get. But my true high point with video games came when the GameCube got released. And my favourite game of all time enters into the frame, Metroid Prime. Yeah, I just sort of had this memory of being 12 years old, and we were in a branch of Toys R Us. Remember them? Toys R Us. Ah, memories. Yeah, and they had a demo version of Metroid Prime playing on this machine, and Samus was in the Morph Ball, and I remember just sort of rolling around this sort of spaceship in the Morph Ball and just thinking, I want this game. I want this game right now. I want to play this game right now. My mum was working for the council at the time, so I saved up the money for a GameCube by helping my parents deliver poll cards. And so I saved up the money, I got a GameCube, and I got Metroid Prime, and it was fucking incredible. And I've still never had an experience like it. It was like I was actually exploring an alien planet. It was fucking amazing. Like, I did do the obsessive collectibles because, like, I think the collectibles thing was just like sort of like I wanted to extend this experience in some respect. And it was really cool just sort of finding a secret area where there'd be like a missile expansion or an energy tank or something in there. And then Metroid Prime 2 came out a couple of years later, and lots of people saying, oh, it's not as good, it's basically just more of the first one, and I loved it. It was basically just more of the first one, I really did, but with like they actually put Screw Attack in it, which was cool. So I started buying like new releases and old releases for the GameCube. I got a paper round at the time, and I ended up buying like they did the remake of Resident Evil and re-released a bunch of the old ones. So there wasn't a massive selection of horror games for the GameCube, but there were enough. Eternal Darkness, that was another one. The gameplay wasn't that good, but the story, I ended up getting really invested in the story. Oh, and it'd be remiss of me not to mention Killer 7 at this point either. That was just such a fucking insane experience. I'd say that's probably one of the things that inspired me to start making really, really weird, fucked up horror cartoons. And then the story changes a bit when we get to 2005 and Resident Evil 4. I was never really into games that involved a lot of shooting just for the sake of it. You know, Metroid Prime games are first-person shooters, but it's more about the exploration element to those than the catharsis of just sort of shooting shit. But I suppose Resident Evil 4 was where I first discovered how instill that feeling of having achieved something by like clearing an area full of villains. The story was very stupid, but I didn't care. It was just a lot of fun as a video game. It was just sort of patching all of these different elements together into this sort of big, cheesy, over the top old horror movie. It was just really, really fun overall. Some of the most fun I've ever had with a video game. And it's from here that things couldn't really get much better. So yeah, really, really enjoyed Resident Evil 4, really, really hyped for the next one, and there was like a 4-year wait between 4 and 5, and during which time there was a console change, obviously, and it's about here where things start to fall apart. I wasn't really interested in the Wii. I just thought the motion controls were a bit too daunting, and too much effort rather than just sort of sat back and go do on a controller. Like, I did want to play Metroid Prime 3, but again the motion controls were just sort of this barrier between me and it. I mean, the GameCube was a massive part of my life for such a long time. Like, I know like it wasn't even that popular at the time because lots of companies wouldn't make games for it, but I really enjoyed the GameCube because they just put out so many good games that would consume my life for like weeks at a time. But I really wasn't interested in the Wii. That, and then when I heard that Resident Evil 5 wasn't going to be coming out for the Wii, I made my decision there. I stuck with it. It was the wrong decision in hindsight, but yeah, I went with the PS3 in the end. So then 2009 comes around and Resident Evil 5 comes out, and I play it and I convince myself that it's still good, but then just sort of about halfway through the game I just think to myself, isn't this basically the last one but not as good? It wasn't even just the story in the end, which was sort of this half-assed, cobbled together mishmash of loose threads and loose strands from previous games that they'd never bothered tying up. It was also the inventory system. They tried to bring back the 9 items inventory because some people had said, oh, you've got the attaché case in Resident Evil 4, that's not really a survival game anymore, is it? So, but if you've introduced the attaché case in Resident Evil 4, you can't really switch back to the 9 items thing in 5 because you've got an expectation there now. I don't really think the attaché case replacing the small inventory in 4. I don't really think that detracted from the whole survival element of it. It just because Resident Evil 4 was it did have some kind of survival element to it. You're just sort of fending off against these waves and waves of enemies, but the restricted inventory in 5, it just made it more annoying. Like, you'd have to get rid of loads of items that you didn't need right now, and then go wandering around looking for more of them, and you really couldn't hold that much. It was just really I don't know. It just really frustrated me. That and the story was just like 4. Everything sort of flowed together. You go from the village to the castle to the mines to the island. It just sort of everything flowed from one thing to the next quite nicely. And in 5, it was just sort of you're in this little village, and then you go up on this mountain or something, and you're in a mine again, and then you're like on a boat or something, and there's like this little guy who like turns into like this monster or something. It's just the last one, but not as good, and it's got fan service pandering in it. And maybe it was the hype that did it, because I've been hyping myself up for like 4 years, going, yeah, it's going to be really good, it's going to be just as good as the last one, because this is amazing. Oh, it's just that. It was around here as well that everyone got obsessed with sandbox games, which you'd think, given I was talking up the exploration aspect of Pokemon and Metroid Prime as something that I really enjoyed in video games, you'd think that I'd be into that, but no. I tried playing sandbox games like GTA 4, and I just found that if I can go anywhere and do anything, I don't know what to do. I'd find it boring. I'd just sort of be aimlessly wandering around going, what do I do now? Fuck knows. I don't know. And then came BioShock, which kind of validated my owning a PS3, because this was around the time that I started reading lots more sci-fi novels than I used to, and watching more sci-fi TV shows, and I just found this. It was just this really well fleshed out, well realised world that I could genuinely believe, despite the premises like so fucking insane and over the top. I just felt I was really involved with the story. Like you'd have Atlas talking to you on the comms all the time, trying to get you to the next point, and you think, oh, I'm gonna find more stuff out about this world and what's really going on here. And then there was the would you kindly moment, which was, wow, that just hit me like a ton of bricks. That was like, wow, the game's been playing with me. I'm just putting in what I think I'm supposed to be doing in the video game. I'm just inputting that, and I think I'm in control, but it's actually someone else that's been in control this whole time, telling me to do that. I know that's not really what's going on, but in terms of narrative-wise, it was just really interesting to me. And then BioShock 2. It was that game. I'm pretty sure it was that game. Now, I know that when you slag off any video game on the internet, people will immediately jump down your throats and say that you're being too harsh, or, oh, I can't believe that you would say that thing about this game that I like, or something, but I really hated BioShock 2. The reason I hated it, obviously, was the story's nowhere near as strong. The same setting, just from a different character's perspective, essentially, and there was just so much grinding in it that it's just... My memories of BioShock 2 are just sort of wandering between different rooms and just sort of staying there for a bit and just sort of grinding down enemies and going bam, 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 you're dead now, and then like a big sister would show up and it would take ages to try and kill her, and it's just this again. And with BioShock 2, I just felt kind of personally insulted by it, which to explain, I didn't have a whole lot of money coming in at the time. I was still working behind a checkout. I was really depressed, and just sort of like video games had been this escape for a while, escape into this very immersive story. And BioShock 1 had just been it had just been such a visceral experience. But with Bioshock 2, I had to wait ages until it was like pre-owned and had come down in price. It was still way too expensive for what it actually was, but and then like the little money you'd spend on it, and it'd just be like this half-assed shit that they just pasted onto the initial story just to milk some money out of you. And I'd just be like, really? You're doing that to me? I don't get a whole lot of money as it is. And then the games industry would start pissing and moaning about pre-owned games, and I'd be like, you're charging so much already for games. I suppose this is why lots of people will not criticise certain video games, because it's an investment. You know, it's 300 quid for a console and like 50 quid for a video game. Like, you put so much money into this already that if you just come out and admit it's not very good, is it? Then it'd be like, oh, I've wasted quite a lot of my money. Yeah, that's fucking annoying, isn't it? I just felt kind of insulted by it. It's just saying, oh yeah, we put out the first one and you really like that, you'll probably just buy this because it's basically the first one but not as good. One of the things that made me buy Bioshock 2 was the reviews. Like, it was still getting like 9 out of 10 in magazines, and everyone was still saying, oh, you need to play this, Stuart, it's really good, it's another Bioshock game. So I'd be like, oh yeah, I like Bioshock, let's buy that. But then when I play it, it's basically like the first one, but with every single thing I liked about the first one surgically removed from it. Why are you overpraising this? Why are you saying that this is such an amazing experience when it's just sort of like this grindy, boring, monotonous wander between rooms shit? Bioshock 2 was nothing like the first one. It was rubbish, quite frankly, and talking about games that just aren't very good, it's just going to encourage more people to buy more of these games, so companies can just think, oh, we can put out something that really didn't take us that long to make and is just this half-assed piece of crap. Fortunately, they did better with Bioshock Infinite. I was sceptical when Bioshock Infinite came out. I'd been hurt before, and that just... I think I stopped playing video games for like 2 months after Bioshock 2. It had pissed me off so much. But yeah, Bioshock Infinite, really good game. Really enjoyed Bioshock Infinite. I was, I said I was really dubious about it going into it in the months and months build up. But you know, it was a new world, really fleshed out characters, sort of taking inspiration from the first game and sort of building it into something entirely new. There was nowhere near as much grinding in it. You're on this path throughout the whole game. You're going somewhere. You're doing something. You've got something to achieve. Brilliant. That's the Bioshock I like. But the damage had been done to my enthusiasm for modern video games at that point. I was just sick of buying video games, spending so much money on games that it was mostly sequel fatigue, I'd say. Sequel fatigue. I'd be buying video games and it'd be this massive investment, and I'd be like, this is just the first one but not as good. And it just keep happening. Dead Space 2, it essentially happened again. I just got sick of putting money into these franchises and just going, okay, you had one idea and now you're doing that idea again, and you're going to do that idea again in the next one. And it was around there that I started noticing little microtransactions that you could do, put some money into this game which you'd already paid quite a lot of money for, to buy extra stuff to make the game quicker. which is like, I didn't have much money coming in at the time that I could spend on video games, and it was just a slap in the face, that was. And yeah, as said, around that time, that was when they started going off about pre-owned video games, and I'd just be like, seriously, you're charging so much money as it is, now you're putting microtransactions in games. It was just like a massive slap in the face. I'm your consumer here. I work behind a checkout, I don't get much money. It just felt like I was chucking money down a drain because people kept on telling me, oh, this is really good, this is going to be worth your time, and it's just sort of like this cheap, half-assed piece of shit copy and pasted from the first game. So my interest just totally dwindled. I sort of got it back a little bit when I borrowed a Wii from my girlfriend's family, and ended up getting a copy of Metroid Prime 3 and finally playing that, and that was amazing. I actually found that the motion controls weren't really a barrier to it at all. It was like this little nostalgic trip where I'd be like, yeah, I'm Samus, I'm exploring an alien planet, and I just found like the contrast between that game and lots of the modern like shooty story games that I've been playing recently. The contrast between that and Metroid Prime 3 was fucking immense. With Metroid Prime 3, it was like this big, massive, fully realised set of 3 planets that you get to explore. And then comparing that with like Bioshock 2, it seemed to me that video games were going in a direction that I just couldn't get in on the ground floor of anymore. Because, as I said at the start of this, I was a very lonery sort of person. I like solitary experiences where I'd like go around and exploring planets, and video games seemed to be moving at the time in the more co-op, shootery, lots and lots of people playing online sort of direction. I remember thinking fucking seriously when they started putting out games that they charged 50 quid for, and they didn't even have a story mode. I pick up a game and it says between 2 and etc. amount of players, and I'll just be thinking, you haven't even bothered putting a story mode in this. I think Alien Isolation is probably one of the best examples of what I went to video games for in the first place, because Alien Isolation is essentially 50% of Alien Isolation is hiding in cupboards. In this simulated environment where I'd be hiding in a cupboard where this alien would be walking around and I'd be like, oh my god, is the alien gonna find me? Is the alien gonna find me? Is the alien gonna find me? It's like Let's Pretend for kids, basically. But I couldn't really find that many video games that actually did that. It was just all this obsessive, all this. Oh, we gotta get. Oh, people like Call of Duty. People like the shooty bang bangs and shit, and playing against other people online and going, oh, I owned you or something. But it's like that no one was really making those solitary experiences where you'd like be chased by a monster or some shit like that for people who like horror games like me. And playing Metroid Prime 3 in the environment of video games in 2013, it was just like, why is no one making games like this anymore? The market for them is here. Look, it's me. I'm here. I'm playing this video game. I'm really enjoying it. Why is no one making games like this anymore? It's just sort of like they saw something that's popular. They could chuck microtransactions at it and people would probably pay for it, so that's it. That's all we can be asked to do. That's all we're going to make now. So yeah, you'd think Metroid Prime 3 would be sort of like this reinvigorating experience that would get me back into video games, and it kind of was. It made me think, oh, maybe I've been missing something all these years as I've sort of numbed myself to it. Maybe it's just the bad video game choices that I made. But then I played Metroid Other M. Hey, here's an idea, everyone. Let's sort of cobble together past elements of like Super Metroid and shit like that, and let's put in a really, really shit and half-assed story and totally ruin the character of Samus. And oh god, I'm having flashbacks. Stop me, please, no. Just the moment that killed my love of video games, pretty much stone dead, was start of Metroid Other M. It chucks me into this area, and like I'm stood still, I can't move, and you've got to find the contextual bit of wall that you're supposed to point at and click on. Find the bit of wall to click on, and then a movie will play. And that movie will be completely undermining the character of Samus. Which the entire point is the exploring alien environments on your own, and there's like these military guys, and I just what is this? I like taking creative risks. I really do. I know I spent a lot. I know I talked about a couple of franchises where I'm like, isn't this basically the first one, but not as good? But Metroid Other M it was just crushing. I remember when I decided that I really didn't need to complete this at all. I just I put the game down and I just went for a bike ride, and it just felt like something had snapped. And things wouldn't be the same again after that. I did play, as said, Alien Isolation after Metroid Other M, and it was a really good experience, and I really enjoyed it. But after Alien Isolation, I still wasn't really seeing that many games that looked that interesting to me. People would still talk them up and shit like that, but I'd stopped reading gaming publications because they just kept on talking up games which just I'd probably end up just getting them and thinking, wow, this is overrated. just sort of like, I look at like game reviews talking up sequels to games and saying that they're just as good as the original, or even better than the original in some cases, and just sort of thinking, are you really enjoying this as much as you say you are? What was it about the first one that you enjoyed? Because with Bioshock 1, I don't think it was as grindy and boring as 2 was. I'm finding it hard to understand why someone would like Bioshock 2 as much as Bioshock 1, because Bioshock 2 is basically just 1, but with none of the things that really stood out about 1 and were like the reasons that people liked 1. People liked 1 because the story was fucking really tight and solid and well fleshed out, whereas 2's got none of that. It's basically just wandering between rooms and grinding. That's pretty much it. So yeah, I haven't bothered completing a video game since Alien Isolation, but this doesn't mean that I don't play video games at all anymore, although lots of people would probably quibble with the sort of video games that I play as being called video games. Yeah, I'm sorry guys, I'm now one of those people that they call filthy casual. Yeah, thanks for that gaming community. Yeah, thanks for referring to people like me who play these games as filthy casuals. Yeah, that's very enticing to make me come back to the gaming community. It really is. That the types of games that I like are filthy casuals. Yeah, it's really friendly and welcoming, isn't it? So yeah, one of the games that I've played quite a lot recently is this game where you you're like, is the camera in focus? Yeah, you like, they're like hexagons, and like you put them into the slot, and then once you finish putting them into the slot, then it goes, yeah, you completed the puzzle. Oh, look, I'm about to complete it. That's like an excitement. Yay, I completed the level, look at that. I swear the next video gaming icon should be considered to be these hexagons. You know, you got like a plumber, this weird little sort of dinosaur thing, a monkey or a donkey or some shit, and you also got a hexagon that fits into a hole next to some other hexagons. Woo, hexagons! Oh, and I also was into Pokemon Go, mostly because of the nostalgia element of it, and Pokemon Go is barely a video game as it is. But even that whole money grubbing shit turned me off of that as well, because I remember there was this event that they did, I think it was last autumn or something, that finally made me go, right, I am not putting any more money into this game. They were doing this event where they put rare Pokemon into 2k eggs. You only have to walk like 2k, and wow, you might get a Larvitar or a Marip or something. For the whole month, yeah, you're supposed to be able to get these rare Pokemon from 2k eggs, and for the whole month, every single Pokestop I spun would immediately give me 10k eggs. Huh, odd that. It's almost as though you deleted the entire thing that this event was about from the fucking game. So I'd have like this massive stack of 10k eggs that I'd have to buy incubators for to get rid of them, because you can't delete eggs for some reason. And because the event was live, they put the Larvitars and Marips, they put all of them into 2k eggs. So all you would get from 10k eggs was Porygon and Sudowoodo, which I already had tons of. Seriously, that was just a massive slap in the face. That must have been deliberate that they did that, to force people to spend more money on incubators. That is just such an open display of contempt for the consumer, and a complete indication of just why modern video games have completely turned me off. Putting microtransactions in games you've already spent 50 quid on, talking down pre-owned games, which are pretty much the only way that people like me could even play video games at the time, and it's just sort of, you're throwing away perfectly good consumers like me. Maybe I could start playing video games more often again in the future, and like buying them at proper price and shit, but it's just sort of, I don't care anymore. I'm dead as a video game consumer now. You've killed me by disincentivizing me so much, because, oh, we want more money, we want more money. How much money do you people need to fucking make a video game that's enjoyable? Pokemon Red and Blue were basically made on nothing. There was like a tiny development team. And it's just like, sort of like, it doesn't cost that much to make a video game that's enjoyable, surely. But apparently it is. So it's like me, I'm now dead inside as a gamer. I don't care anymore at all. So yeah, that was my story as a video game player from birth till death. I may end up coming back soon at some point, but you know, I'm a story guy. I like horror, I like sci-fi, and just sort of lots of these trends in recent video games. They don't really serve people like me. Like maybe it's because I'm not looking hard enough. Maybe it's just bad gaming choices that I've made in the past that I've talked about over the course of this video. But yeah, my interest just dried up in the end, basically. If you'd like to see more videos like this, then why not leave a comment, or like the video, or subscribe or something. Or not, if you don't want to. I don't know, we all have free will, don't we? Anyway, thank you for watching. Bye bye.